Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest Sun is Life webinar in our continuing educational series brought to you by IST Magazine and the Power Group companies. If I sound a little weird or more weird than normal today, I have a nasty cold, so now I have my radio voice on. This is John Farr, and I'm going to introduce the rest of our people here as we get ready. But I guess this is kind of introduce the subject of the best of the best. And this is something that I have believed in all of my life. We can all stand on the shoulders of those who have already done it. And we have 3 retailers on the panel today that have done it. They're very, very successful, and I think you're going to get an awful lot out of it. Today's webinar is going to be very conversational. I'm going to go through a few points, but then I'm going to turn it over to our panelists, and we're going to have some crosstalk. We really encourage you people to ask questions and make comments, because our panelists will comment and will give you some suggestions or ideas on that. As you know, for all attendees, you know that the audio transmission is one way. You can ask questions by that comment box. It'll last about 60 minutes, and we're trying not to go over. I know that sometimes it becomes a pain in the neck for people because you have schedules and you have people lined up for 10, so there'll be a brief Q&A at the end, but want you to ask your questions throughout the webinar, because we may answer them right then and there, or our panelists may do so. And then you can reconnect by just dialing into the webinar invite system. And the recording will be available tomorrow on the IST website and on the John R. Farr website, the Power Group website. So if you have or know somebody that was not able to make it today and you want to hear it, or you want to hear it again, just go to those websites and it'll be ready then. Again, as I said, brought to you by IST. There's the John and Tony show, and that's the old guy on the left, that's me, and Tony, the rather handsome, large gentleman on the right there with the shoulders like a Volkswagen. We were just talking about that earlier.
And multiple chins.
And well, I don't know about that, but you could put a checkered cab on those shoulders. Good afternoon, Mr. Tony. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you,
Good.
John?
Good, good. Beside this cold and the fact that I'm older than dirt, I guess I'm okay. We also have with us our tech wizard, Mr. David. So he's the one that takes care of all of this stuff and monitors this call. So if this webinar gets screwed up at all, of course, it's always David's fault. Okay, so best of the best. Some of the topics we're going to discuss today, getting right down to it. What do the most successful salon owners do to be the best? And we're going to talk about generally about marketing. We're going to talk in terms of human resource management, compensation and incentives to get and keep excellent staff, pricing and EFTs. Boy, there's a big one. There is a big one. Should I grow with another location? And these gentlemen that are on here, wow, they've faced that decision many times. And competition. Something that I feel that many salons do not spend a lot of time is looking at competition and doing some G2 and just downright spying on their competition. I don't think they do a lot of it. All right, so let's introduce some of our panel. And I'm holding my breath because I got this picture off of Facebook, so I hope that I've got the right people. Dan and Michael Mann own Seattle's Tropical Tan, 14 salons out there. Been in the business for quite a while, very successful. And here's the picture. And Dan, is that you and Michael the Snooki?
That's me on the right. That's me on the right. That's actually Bruce from Supri.
Yes, Michael, my apologies, buddy.
Yeah, you know, Bruce got his picture with everybody.
Actually, the most important picture is that little lady standing in the center there. Say that, but of course that's just me talking. So anyway, Daniel, that's you on the right, and that is not Michael Mann on the left. So what we'll do is maybe in the version that you can replay, I'll find another picture with Michael and put that in there. So. This picture, by the way, just to show you Daniel Mann, the reason I want to put that in there, particularly with Snooki, is because Daniel and Michael pulled off a promotion with Snooki that we want to inspire you guys a little bit. It really was something I think that just about anybody could do if you have a good relationship with your distributor. But now, when I say anybody could do it, as Dan will tell us later, this was not a promotion they put together overnight. So it goes to the subject of persistence. But we'll let Dan get into that in a bit when we give you some details. And the next person we want to introduce is Brian Hibbert. And Brian, that is about as bad a picture of you as I possibly could have found.
You could have included the teddy bear in there.
I could have. As I said, though, I was kind of in a hurry. I went through a lot of pictures trying to find a picture of you and your beautiful wife, and unfortunately I couldn't find that. So I had to settle for you. But anyway, Brian, what's your store count? You've got franchise stores and you've got corporate stores. So how many of each do you have now?
Well, we're creeping up on 40 total, and it's getting pretty split evenly. Probably about 18 or 19 corporate, and then 15 or 16 franchise open, and a couple corporate that are under construction, a couple franchise under construction.
Well, if I'm on this call right now and I own one salon or I own 2 or 3 salons, I've got to be wondering what were we smoking on this end to put you 2 retailers on, one with 14 stores and one with 40 stores, and that's because each one of you went through that first store, second store, third store, and as I'll tell the audience that I had specifically said to both of you that, and also I'm sure Dan communicated this to Michael, that we want to talk in terms of people that have a single store or 2 stores or 3 stores, and the kind of the challenges that you guys went through when you were not owning 14 and 40 stores. So even though they have a lot of stores, people, they've lived through everything that you're living through. So let's move on. And what are the best do in the most important areas of their salon business? And I'm going to go through some points here, and then I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Dan, Michael, and Brian take over. So marketing. Marketing is pre-planned for a year around strategy, not just peak season. This is what the best of the best do. I know Brian does it. I know Dan and Michael do it. In other words, it's not something you don't think about your marketing in January. You've got it pre-planned long before you get to the peak season. And yet, in our consulting, we see this very often. We'll have people, I can't begin to tell you, here we are in the first week of March, the number of people that are calling us. And, you know, we love the business, but it's kind of frustrating sometimes. We wish that we'd be talking in October or November. The other thing, too, is that you'll see the best will always have a budget for that marketing as a % of gross sales. They know where they're going. They know what they're going to spend on their business. Now, when Brian came to the business, and when we get around to letting these gentlemen talk, I'm going to also have them give themselves a little bio portrait of who they are. But Brian was a CPA, Brian, right?
Yes, yep.
Right. So I'm sure that Brian, somewhere in his budget, has a % of gross sales for marketing, and I'm sure that Dan and Michael do too. And this is important stuff. It's planning. And marketing is consistent and constant in the eyes of consumers. It's not something that you throw together, oh, gee, we haven't done an email for 6 weeks, let's put something out there. You're trying to keep that reach to the consumers on a consistent basis. And let's talk about Facebook. You know, I was looking, Dan and Michael, at your Facebook as I was looking at Brian's this morning, and I tell you, both of your Facebooks, what I love about it is there's a lot of stuff going on your Facebook. When I look at your Facebook, there's lots of posts, there's pictures, there's images on there, stuff that would draw me to your Facebook. And a lot of times when I look at Facebook timelines for salons, all you'll see is a deal on a lotion, a deal on a tan or whatever, and you'll see very often that somebody hasn't posted there for 2 weeks. And the one thing about Facebook, I mean, it's today. It's got to be something that's done daily, and it should be dominated, according to Facebook's own research, it should be dominated by commercial messages. Yes, you need to put your commercial messages on there, but you need to put pictures. Brian, when I look at your Facebook, it's wonderful. There's images of your employees on there. There's images. I think there's Dan, on your Facebook, you've got your three pug dogs on there, and I'm looking at this, and these are pug dogs, and they're wearing Santa hats, and it was just charming. Really nice stuff. Facebook promotions need to be unique to get the attention of social media. And talk about unique, Mr. Brian, when we get around to, I've got a picture in here, I've got a screenshot of what you did with the Powerball lottery, which I just thought was just an amazing piece of marketing. And when we get to that, you can tell people what your likes were on Facebook and what that promotion did, because that was very unique and very powerful. Facebook is assigned the responsibility of one person in the organization, and I'm sure that both of these retailers do that. What you see a lot of times with retailers is it's whoever gets around to doing a post. Well, what we suggest and really push for our clients is you have one person in the organization that is responsible for Facebook. And to make sure that they're doing it, you're monitoring what they're doing, and you're putting out goals for them for likes and interactive traffic. And that's real easy to do. People work much better on goals. And so if you've got a 22-year-old lady that works for you that's a Facebook freak, and you've currently got 50 likes or less, or you got 100 likes or whatever, and you want there to be more, you need to give her a goal, and also, by the way, maybe a small reward for getting there. Marketing, again, the best marketing is conducted across all effective media, either available or affordable, meaning that if you're in a market where you have a single salon and you've got radio and television, it may not be affordable, it may not make sense for you. Now, in Brian's case, Brian dominates at least two of the markets he's in. He's the big dog in town. Now, what's interesting about Dan and Michael is that they have 14 salons, but they've got to do a little guerrilla marketing there because they've got a couple 800-pound gorillas that they have to compete against. So if you and the audience are in a market where you have a single salon and you've got a big mega retailer with 50 stores around or whatever, if you're in the Chicago area or whatever, believe me, Dan and Michael know what you're going through. So, but marketing is conducted across all effective media, so it's not just we'll send out an email every 6 weeks or whatever. And marketing attempts to constantly expand its reach as well as its frequency. Now, in the case of Brian's got somebody that is more or less in charge of his marketing, and I'm sure that that's one of the matrices he uses is to look at the audience size and who he's reaching, and that's very important. The marketing strategy includes conducting traffic counts on significant competition. I tell you, this is one of the simplest ways people to find out what your market share is. It's kind of crude. It's not exactly Nielsen or Gallup organization type research, but if you have a competitive salon that's only a mile away and you look at them Monday evening 4 to 7 and you count how many bodies, man, woman, and child walks through that door and compare it against yours, at least it gives you some kind of an idea if your business is growing versus the competition or not. And marketing includes reminders of membership benefits. I think a lot of times we run into trouble on retaining EFTs because we don't remind our members all the goodies that come with membership besides just cheap price. And let me move here to get this thing. Okay, so let's talk about marketing. Continue a couple more points. Email marketing utilizes flashwords as subject lines. David, who is our tech wizard, we have a number of clients that work through us on email, and he sees it every day because he's always asking, okay, the subject line, what are we going to do here, because this subject line that we've got is boring and it's not going to get people to open up. And it's incredibly connected that those subject lines that have a little bit more sex appeal or a little bit more uniqueness in them, you'll see the open rates go up. Email stresses more wow messages. If you're just sending out an email because you haven't sent one out for a while, then you're kind of wasting your time and the consumer's time. It's got to have a wow message, something that really wakes them up and says, yeah, this is really a unique value or a unique reason for me to read the rest of this. Now, radio marketing can be powerful when using both purchased and value-added spots. And I tell you, if you are interested in radio, you can look at my Facebook and you'll see some testimonials on there of what we do with radio in a lot of markets. And I've been buying radio for 44 years, so this is something that we do, and it can be very powerful. Now, not everybody can use radio, but those that can, it can really work. And radio ads are best during midday and afternoon drive. There's a lot of research on that. A lot of people think it's morning drive. No, it's midday and afternoon drive that work the best. Okay, text marketing text marketing is most effective when used sparingly and with urgency. Text marketing is getting kind of kicked around here lately. Some of you maybe have a very effective response on text marketing, and some of you may not. But text marketing is not quite as effective as it used to be 3-4 years ago, because now more and more people are getting more and more texts, and they're opting out of getting those because they're getting too many of them. But as long as what you're sending out has a sense of urgency, spray tan half off today by 4 o'clock, something like that. You can't give people a 2-week window on a text message because they go through text messages like water. Outdoor advertising, if you're going to do outdoor advertising, you almost need like a parking lot traffic lane for morning or afternoon drive. I've seen outdoor advertising like in major markets like Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Chicago, Boston, that were very effective because you get into some of that traffic. Out in LA, you get on the 5 and you're in a parking lot. It can be very effective because you're sitting there in traffic looking at a billboard with a tanning salon chain on there. That can be very effective, but that doesn't work necessarily in every market. In-salon promotions can be powerful if they are unique, and that's one of the things that we're going to have Dan and Mike talk about today with their Snooki promotion. They did more than just the in-salon promotion on it, but it was huge, and I'm anxious to have them talk to everybody about what they did. Now, public causes can raise consumer interest and participation, and the best salons get involved in breast cancer. Big Brothers, Big Sisters. We did a promotion in LA for. We worked with a rescue hospital out there for dogs and cats, and it was very, very effective. We do a promotion in August called the Dog Days of Summer. We put dog pictures up on the Facebook, and it just gets tremendous amount of interest. People are interested in that stuff. We had a salon, big salon that I was running in L.A. One day we had a squirrel run through the salon lobby, and I tell you, we got more likes and more hits on because of this squirrel. I don't know why people would be so excited about looking at a squirrel in the salon, but they were. So, what can I tell you? Okay, moving on here. So, staff mastery, and these are just all general areas, and then, like I said, I'm going to turn it over to our retailers. But obviously, when you're talking about the best, what the best salons do, they hire the best, and their recruiting and interviewing never stops. One of the mistakes that I see salons that are not doing so well that they do, they get a staff that they think now is complete and full, and they leave it at that, and they have no bench strength, nobody that's waiting in the wings. And the next thing you know, one of the girls wants to run off with her boyfriend or dig water wells in Egypt, and now you're short of staff. And so the best salons keep looking for better and better tanning consultants. You always want to try to bring the bottom closer to the top. And compensation that escapes the perception of it's a job in tanning. This is one of the biggest challenges that all of us face in this business, is that years ago we didn't put great tanning consultants in salons. I talk about 10, 12 years ago, we just threw a heart-beating body at turning on a tanning bed. And so today, and I probably do 35 or 40 interviews a week. And today you'll hear it from people that, well, it's just a job in tanning. I mean, it's almost like working at the drive-up of McDonald's or Arby's, and that's one of our problems. So if we go out there with, if we go out there with minimum wage, it looks like we're in the fast food business, and so people have told me, applicants have told me that they will not take a job and a minimum wage job in a tanning salon, because there's a perception that people that take minimum wage jobs must be idiots or whatever. But that's kind of a problem that we created in tanning. So what we want to have is a total compensation that includes a base wage that's not akin to fast food. It's really should include graduated bonuses and commissions for EFT sales and lotion sales. And I know that, Brian, you've gone through this, and I know that you'll have a lot to say on that as well, because it just pays off. And then also in staff mastering, thorough training completed by your most competent trainer. And I know, Brian, you have a trainer now in your company, and I believe, Dan, you probably have one in your company too. Now, if you have one or two salons, you're saying, well, we don't have the budget that Brian and Dan and Michael have, and we can't just have one person that is denoted for training. But even if you have a salon with only 5 or 6 employees, chances are there's a person in there that has those empathy skills and has the patience for training, and you might want to use that person as your trainer. Sometimes your manager is not always your best trainer. Sometimes the best training that you can give a new person is with a peer. Peers are less threatening, and if they have good empathy and patience skills and they know how to sell, that might be the best person for you to have as your trainer. And of course, what's incredibly important is use the Wall of Fame. And if you wonder about that, we had Tony and I hosted a webinar last year called The Wall of Fame, where we talked about some of the details of the Sun is Life certification program, which is just an absolute killer program. And we showed what it looks like to have these certifications up on your wall by your desk as you walk into the salon. And I have to say that when I do salon tours, and I do a couple hundred of them a year, I walk in and I see that certification on the wall. It says to me as a potential consumer, these people have taken some time and invested in their employees to get them up to speed, not only from the competence of how to tan, but to do it very safely as well. It's the whole professional theme that Tony in the Sun is Life program is trying to create. Let's forget, harping about this health thing. Let's talk about our professionalism. And of course, consistent monitoring and feedback of sales results. I know that Brian and I have been through, I don't know how many different conversations over the years about how to monitor and feedback sales results. And I think Brian's probably got about 19 different ways to give feedback to his people about how they're doing in their sales. And it's one of the things that I've preached for a long time is an EFT close rate. If you're not using an EFT close rate, you really need to be doing so. And really all that is the EFTs that your staff is selling divided by the number of transactions that they handle. It's a very small number, but you can still use it in a relative way to show who's doing the better job of handling the transactions they do have. And it's kind of a level playing field because a lot of people come in, they've already got an EFT, and that can affect anybody that's on the desk at the time. And of course, staff mastery includes recognition and acknowledgement for efforts as well as successes. I do a lot of, call it investigations. I have tanning salon companies that come to me. They want to know why is our perception of morale of our employees so low, and so I do lots and lots of interviews. And what I hear so many times is people will say, I really don't get a lot of feedback, if any feedback, from management, and I certainly don't hear about all of the effort that we're putting in. Maybe we're not getting a PSA as high as it should be or an LPA as high as it should be, but damn it, can't somebody at least say that they realize at least we're trying? And you hear that. So recognitions and acknowledgments, very, very critical. People know that you know at least that you're giving it that you're trying. And then, of course, a subject that's very near and dear to me, I'm sure it is to Brian, but particularly to Dan, and we're going to have Dan talk about that later. And later on, Dan, when we get into where I'm not talking, and it's you and Mike and Brian, you can jump in anytime you want, because I know that mentoring is a very important topic as an owner. I suppose when you get to have almost 40 locations like Brian does, it gets a little bit more difficult to mentor individuals. But what Brian, I'm sure, tries to do is he has a management staff that has in the back of their mind the philosophy that mentoring to keep and retain some of the best employees is very important, and I'm sure that that's what he's looking for in his management staff. And really, tell you the truth, I've seen it over the years in my almost 46 years of managing people, that mentoring will keep employees sometimes even better than great compensation packages. Because if you give them a great compensation package, but it's a horrible place to work, you're not going to keep them because they're going to leave. Money isn't going to be worth it after a while. Okay, and moving on here. Okay, and I think this is one of the last things, and then I promise I'm going to shut up. EFT is the critical goal for every salon. EFT revenues should be at least 35% of your total revenues. And Dan and Brian have given me permission to tell you that their EFT revenues are more than 50% of their total revenues. And that's, I tell you, the most successful salons are in that range. It is absolutely huge. And what you have to do, those that are on this call, you have to dispel the notion that EFTs are somehow intrusive or an unwarranted pressure on customers. When I work with new clients and I hear staff say to me, oh, our clients don't want EFTs and they don't want to make that commitment to have their bank account tied up or whatever. And that's because in most cases the consumer doesn't understand the great advantages and, frankly, the privileges that come along with the membership. It is just plain good customer service for you to make the customer aware of just how inexpensive tanning and unlimited tanning can be if they're on a membership, and that there's more than just the inexpensive cost. There's other goodies that go along with, whether it's free upgrades or it's incredible discounts on lotions. And so we really have to get rid of that notion that EFTs are they're a horrible thing for the consumer. When the consumer understands it, they're not horrible. Because the most difficult EFT to sell, the absolute most difficult EFT to sell, is the first one to each customer when you're getting their credit card or banking information. That's the most difficult one. Once you get that person on an EFT, then the upgrade to an upgraded level of EFT is much, much easier to sell. And the other thing with EFTs is to remember that the football that gets kicked around is the entry-level EFT pricing. You have to be competitive. If you go out there on your marketing and you're talking about a level 5 high-pressure bed pricing, you're just not going to get a lot of people interested in it, because that is the serious tanner, and they're way ahead of you anyway. At this time of the year, particularly February and March, you want a price out there that really draws in as many people as you can. You want to sign up everybody and their mother and get that market share. That's the football. And now, let's see here. Okay, so best of the best topics to discuss. And what do the most successful salons? Okay, we got marketing, we got human resource management, compensation, incentives, pricing, EFTs. Should I grow with another location? And how do I monitor and react to what competition is doing? What I'm going to do here is to get the conversation started, as I talked before about this little promotion that Brian Hibbert did. Was it 2 years ago, I believe, Brian, in January of 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Oh, wrong. Okay. See this here? Brian, go ahead. I promise I am going to shut up. Let's tell everybody what you did with this.
So we had bought 2 lottery tickets. It was the Powerball when it was up over $500 million. We had bought the 2 lottery tickets you see there. Those are the actual tickets. We posted them on Facebook and told everybody, win your chance at $550 million. That anybody who liked the photo we were going to split the money with. We emailed it out to our database. It started off. We had people were liking it. More people liked the picture than liked our page, and that maybe was a mistake, because I thought the original one we didn't say like our page. I thought that was the second one we did, but the first one we did anyway, which had more. The news media ended up picking it up. We ended up having 2 news crews in our store, getting on the 6 o'clock news. We had something like 30,000 people had liked the photo, but just from that one promo, it didn't cost us $1. We got our salons on 2 news channels in town. 30,000 people had liked and shared it, and I don't remember what the number of shares, but it was a couple thousand. So, I mean, every time somebody shares something to their page, you're hitting an average of, I think it's the average person has 220-something friends now or something. So, I mean, 1,000 people share your page, you're hitting 20,000. I mean, 200,000 different people are seeing your post. So it was a pretty successful engagement type ad for Facebook, not necessarily monetized, but as far as getting people engaged with our page, and the promotional value was pretty significant.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, there's not a, we don't know what the direct correlation is between likes and interaction on Facebook and what it means to business in your salon. But I mean, you, for something, this creative thing got you a tremendous amount of gross impressions. I mean, I don't know how you could have bought that many gross impressions, what media you would have used.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, and then when you combine in the TV media and everything, I mean, we literally had, you know, like 2 or 3 minute spots on the 6 o'clock news on 2 different channels with interviews, pictures of the stores. Come down to South Beach, sign up on our Facebook. They showed our Facebook page on TV.
And see, there's no reason on that particular promotion, Brian, why somebody that has one store in a small market that still has Powerball or Mega Millions, there's no reason somebody else couldn't do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
After you did your promotion, Brian, well, actually, I think you copied it from somebody else, and then I saw 5 or 6 of my clients. I didn't get a chance to tell them, but apparently they must have been watching you because I had mentioned you before. So they picked up on that, and there was a lady with 2 salons in a small market. She did it. She had similar results. I mean, it's a really simple concept, and it worked quite well. Let me go back here. Come on, you. Why is it doing this? A second here. I'm going to go back, Dan. I want to go back to, we're talking about marketing. Dan, you and Michael, can you share with everybody what you did with Snooki?
Sure. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it because he's the one who really orchestrated and organized the event. So I want to give him full credit for it. So go ahead, Mike.
Well, it started off probably about, I would say we started working on with one of our partners, Supreme. You know, it's incredibly important that in our business, one thing we've discovered is that you get really good partners. And Supreme as a lotion partner has been tremendous for us. And a lot of the credit goes to those guys because we literally have been working on getting Snooki out here for about 2 years. And, you know, we finally started hitting that point where we are the largest distributor of Snooki's products here on the West Coast. We're probably the largest seller, which is kind of goofy to think about because we're this, you know, funny little chain up here in the Northwest. But, you know what, it was good enough. And you know, the other thing is, we showed up to all the trade shows. We go to all the trade shows. We showed up at. We talked to our partners. We showed up at all the trade shows. We talked with the full manager. By the way, Snooki does not like to be called Snooki. She likes to be called Nicole. So if you ever meet her, you have to call her Nicole because she doesn't like getting called Snooki.
Wait, say that again, Mike. I didn't hear that. She likes to be called what?
She likes to be called Nicole. She doesn't like
Nicole.
To be called
Snooki. Okay.
Yeah. So when you meet her, you have to call her Nicole. She likes that better. But,
so if you call her Snooki, will she backhand you or what?
Actually, we had one of our girls accidentally called her Snooki when she met her, and yeah, she wasn't too happy. But that was all right. You know, she understands it. You know, that's her brand, so to speak. But
yeah,
it took. You know, it's a long process. It took us about 2 years to get her out here, and but you know what? We have a good enough relationship with our partner Supreme that they felt that they should do it, and they helped to organize the whole process as far as getting her out here, the security. Daniel and I did most of the actual, you know, on the ground stuff here, but a lot of it was help from Supreme getting her out here.
Michael, how did you market it? How did you get the word out?
You know, we did a combination of web. A little bit of radio, and you know, and it was funny because it was a real last-minute thing. She was she was in between places. We didn't know exactly when we were going to get her, so she was on her way, I think, down to L.A. or something like that, and we just happened to catch her on the right day. where she could stop into Seattle and spend a few hours with us. So, you know, it was mostly web and radio. You know.
And so what kind of a radio station did you use? What format?
Just local. It was actually local dance music. We've got a local station, C89, that helps us with some stuff occasionally. But you know, it was we didn't do a big blast out necessarily with like the major markets, because they wanted, like, you know, they wanted like 10 or 15 grand. It was just I don't know. It seemed like kind of real expensive for us to do that for what we were actually going to get back in return. So, yeah, well, let Daniel talk about that. He's better with that than me. Go ahead.
So, yeah, it was a great event for us, and like I mentioned to you before, John, it was the single most effective event that we've ever done in the company in the history of our company. We've been around for over 30 years, and there were about 600 people that came through the salon that day. And honestly, if we would have done more marketing and paid for radio advertising, we couldn't have handled the traffic that would have come in. Just through organic web marketing, our direct email, and what Supreme did and Facebook, we actually had 600 people come to the salon, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Plus, Snooki actually tweeted us out to her 7 million followers, and Instagrammed us to her 5 million followers.
Whoa.
Yeah, pretty crazy, huh?
That's called gross impressions. Wow.
Yeah, we actually had a couple people out drove all the way from Canada and from Eastern Washington. That's basically spent you know, 8 or 9 hours waiting around, you know, from the beginning of the morning to make sure they got in line to meet her. It's pretty funny.
Holy cow, that's a heck of a promotion.
So if anybody wants to see a picture of her and the family there, it's on the most current issue of IST Magazine. It's on page 20 of the March edition of IST Magazine. You can see and read a little bit more about the event, the Snooki in Seattle event.
Well, you know, what you guys did with Snooki and what Brian did with the Powerball, it's great stuff. Maybe let's talk for a minute about things that are more ordinary, if you want to call it, or everyday stuff. Brian, what's your approach in marketing in general for your stores? I mean, you're big on Facebook. You do radio. What do you think is one of the more effective marketing approaches for you and your stores?
I mean, we do kind of all of the above. I mean, we got two basic premises that we follow with our specials. So we have a full calendar of specials, and like John said, we know every special we're running this year. They're designed, whether it's a holiday, whether it's our monthly special, whether it's free tan week. We know when they're happening. The ads are designed. It's laid out 12 months in advance. They pretty much follow the year over year so that our comparisons stay the same. But everybody knows what special is coming up. So that's what our in-store promotion stuff is. And then the rest of our advertising focuses around bringing foot traffic in the door. Our philosophy is you increase the foot traffic, the money's going to follow. We have all these specials, you know, this or that, this sale's going on. Let's just get people in the door. So everything focuses around how do we increase that foot traffic. And the best way for us to do that is really giving stuff away for free. We give away free weeks. All of our postcards are free weeks, free spray tans. Now we're even doing free months. Come in for a month. If we can get the person in the store, we know we can sell them something. So I know convincing people of that is a little bit of a challenge to give something away for free, but it works. I mean, our highest grossing weeks are our free tan weeks. We do once a quarter. And I know I have a little bit of a unique perspective on this because we've been doing some salon conversions where people are converting to our brand, and it's always a challenge to get the people to feel comfortable with giving stuff away for free. Like, what do you mean you're going to email my whole database and give them a month of tanning for free? But I'll give you an example of one we just did. I mean, we did one in Pennsylvania where we got them switched over to our brand, over to our pricing. To re-engage their database, we sent them out a free month. Tan in any bed, we got new pricing, new equipment, blah, 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 come in and tan. You know, they were against it. You know, they struggled with accepting the idea that we were going to do this, but reluctantly they did. February 1st is when they converted, when the mailers went out. They ended up comparing to last year. They had 1,700 tanners in the month of February in 2013. They had 4,960 tanners this year, and their revenue was up by 110%.
Now,
So,
one of the keys to that, Brian, is that, and I think it's something that you've mastered, is that you know what, they're against giving out the free tans because they don't think that they realize that the real key, when you get people lathered up on those free tans, to shave them, you've got to have a staff that's really well trained and really knows how to upsell. And I know that's something you have worked very hard on with your people, and you work hard on with the franchisees.
Yeah, we have a script for we have a script or upsell special to every special we run, whether it's a free tan card that goes out or a free spray tan card or the monthly special. There's always upsells to everything. And the person who, we have a marketing person who designs all our ads, but then our sales trainer is the person who's in charge of coordinating. She coordinates our Facebook. She coordinates the monthly specials getting out to the managers, to the employees, making sure they know it. So we want the person who's doing our training to know the specials the best. So we've kind of put her in charge of all of that, all of the organization of actually implementing the specials. So she knows the sales codes the best. She knows the upsells the best. She's in the stores training everybody. So, I mean, we can certainly see the difference between somebody she trains and if for some reason she hasn't trained somebody else with, because she knows all that. So the upsells are certainly a big part of it. Yeah, throwing out a free month and then not having anything to leverage off of those people coming in doesn't do you any good. But as long as you have a script to follow and an upsell, you're going to sell stuff. I mean, the money always follows the foot traffic.
Well, Brian, and let me, if I'm on this webinar right now and I own 2 salons, I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's got 40. I mean, we're not talking the same language, but really we are. Because whether you have 1 salon or you have 40, scripting is very important. Scripting and training is very important. And you may not have a quote-unquote corporate trainer, but you might have one person among your 5 employees that's better than another, and that person should be doing your training, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have scripting. And that's what you just said is very scalable. You don't have to have 40 salons to do what you just said.
Yeah, we had it when we were much smaller. I mean, the only thing that really evolves, I mean, sure, the amount of training evolves, but I mean, probably at the time we had 5 or 6 is when we really started building our training program. And this could be at 1 store or 2 stores or 3 stores. I mean, we didn't have a corporate trainer that ran around training anybody. The managers did it. Me and my wife did it. So the training has evolved and gotten a little bit stronger, but it's all based on what we started back then. The only thing that's changed is now we have a little more of a budget that we can have one person responsible for that, where before was the managers did the training, and then as we got a little bigger, okay, we brought on a sales trainer. But before that, I mean, me and my wife did the training, but off the same principles.
Same principles. Dan and Michael, let's move to you for a second and talk about marketing. What's been most effective for you? And you guys have 14 stores, but you didn't always have 14 stores. So, you tell us something that's been really effective for you on a consistent basis when it comes to marketing.
John, this is Daniel speaking. One of the things that's worked really well for us throughout my entire time with the company, I've been one of the owners for over 10 years, is the guerrilla marketing using cards, basically, and taking them out to local businesses and getting involved in local culture, local events, sporting events, music events, and just being really active in the community. That's a form of guerrilla marketing that the big guys can't really do. And you can connect with the local community and hand out a stack of cards that maybe give away a free week of tans to all the members of your local gym. Maybe drop off a free session in your medium bed to everybody who goes to the local hair salon. And you can really do a lot. That guerrilla marketing right there, if you get your manager or if you're a single owner operator, do it yourself and go connect with the local community. That's a great way of really increasing customer counts.
It absolutely is. Yep. Yeah, that works really well, particularly if you're talking about a retail establishment that is also in the indulgence business, like maybe it's a fitness center that doesn't have training, or it's a beauty salon like you were talking about. Excuse me, guys, I've got this cold here. Sorry to be coughing here. Let me switch over to human resource management here for a minute.
Hey John, can I jump in real quick on Facebook? Just because they can look at this in real time. On our Facebook page, going back to what you said on Facebook, the Facebook offers, we've been having pretty good success with those, and I see those pretty underutilized. I don't see a whole lot of people using them. So a Facebook offer, you can post an offer that somebody on your Facebook page has to click on Get Offer. They'll be emailed a coupon, so it's very interactive. We put one up. We've been doing one every 2 weeks now. So we put one up at 10 o'clock this morning, a $10 spray tan. You can buy up to 5 at this price. 381 people have claimed this offer, so that's in 3 hours. It'll get over 2,000 based on what we've been doing, but it's something if they want to watch, just because we happen to post it today, I mean, you can refresh the page every 5 or 10 minutes and another 20, 30 people have claimed it. And the Facebook offers are real easy to monetize, especially with something like a $10 spray tan. Like the last one we did, I think there was about 2,100 people who had actually clicked on Get the Offer, so they had something emailed to their inbox, and actually of those that did that, about 1,100 of them brought it in the store. So at $10 a piece, that's over $10,000, and the budget that we spend on a Facebook offer, we spend $360 in advertising on a Facebook offer. So I think they're underutilized. I'm not sure why more people don't use them.
Well, okay, and let me just stop here for a second, because that's great information. And by the way, what you said in terms of those numbers, again, that's scalable. I mean, you can have one salon, and your Facebook, absolutely, you could do that kind of thing. Let me just stop here for a second, because I think we've got some questions here coming through the box that I have not addressed here. Okay, so there's someone here has said, and I'm sorry, they didn't leave a name, so I can't say who it was, but one of the attendees wanted to know about a training checklist, and I guess, I don't know, Brian, if they're asking you of that. Well, let me ask you both. Dan and Michael and Brian, do you guys use a training checklist, which is, of course, something I've been preaching for years, but do you use a training checklist so you know that people are getting trained in the same way every time?
Yeah, we have about our employee training manual is about 300 pages long, and it's got an associated workbook with it. The employee has to go through. It's got activities. It's got questions. Our sales trainer goes through the book with them, and then the last couple pages of the workbook is a checkoff list. They get checked off on. There's probably 75 items on there. The manager checks them off. Then either the corporate sales trainer or a GM, or back when we were smaller, an owner had to check them off on, from locking the door, opening the safe if that was part of their job duty, turning the computer on and off, rebooting the router. I mean, down to this, giving the salon tour, preaching the EFT script, selling a bottle of lotion. They get checked off on everything, from the smallest detail in the store to the actual sales.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Items.
Good stuff. Dan, do you folks use a checklist as well?
Yeah, we have different modules, training modules. We'll do like a general overview of running the store operations, and then we have a sales training module that we send everybody to, and there's a beginning sales training and then more advanced sales training, and yeah, we have different modules.
Okay. Well, let me just kind of, if you look at the list on the screen here, we've got 6 different topic areas, and I've had a question come in here, and I think it is a very pertinent. Whoever asked this question, by the way, thank you for asking it, because it's a very, very pertinent question. Going to what you were talking about, Brian, giving away the month free or a week free or whatever, and so I want to ask this question to both you and Dan and Mike, because I hear this all the time when I'm putting together marketing promotions with clients. They'll ask the same question. So this individual, again, I don't have a name here, so I certainly would recognize them, but this person on the chat box here is saying, how do you handle current EFT clients when you offer a free tan week in any bed? They go on to say, we run into issues that current EFT clients get a little upset that we are giving away their beds for free and they are paying for it. So, Dan, Michael, you want to address that one, because that's what I hear quite a bit.
You want to handle it or Yeah, usually we bribe our current members. We just give them gifts. You know, we'll give them something.
Sure.
You know, we give them some sort of a perk when they come in. That way, they don't feel like they're being disrespected. So
I like the use of the word bribe. That was cute. I like that.
yeah, well, it's the only thing that keeps them off our back when we do stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
like we're doing something like that kind of this week, and we're gonna bribe our current members with $20 gift cards, and
There
that's
you
how
go.
we're gonna do it. Yeah, bribery.
And let me ask you, Dan and Mike, when you're talking about this, you know, everybody. The first thing I always hear is that, well, everybody's going to complain. And by the way, one of the old saws of retail is that everybody usually is 3 people, but maybe not in this case. But if you did something like this, you know, of your current EFT members, how many do you think would really complain about it because they actually know about it or whatever? How many do you think would raise a stink? Is it a big percentage or is it a smaller number?
You know, it's just going to be like I'd say 10 or 15%.
Yeah.
Might complain, and those are the whiny customers that, you know, everyone's got them. You know, it's the person that the one bulb is flickering, or you know, it's that client. Everyone does it. You know what? You just bribe them and you get it over with. So,
Well, bribing, is that a technical industry term? I like that.
I don't know. I'm not sure if it is, but that's what we do. What we got to do to make them happy. So
There you go. Brian, how do you handle that situation?
Well, when we do a free tan week, existing members upgrade to the next level for free, so they're getting something too. So free tan week is free for level 1. If somebody's got a level 1 EFT membership, they're tanning free in the level 2 all week. Somebody with level 2 is tanning free in the level 3. So I'm sure we have a few people complain, but they're getting something too, you know, and their discounts escalate as their memberships are higher as well. And kind of like you just said, you know, when you dig into how many people are complaining, I mean, if I hear everybody's complaining about the spray tan, and I actually call the store, or we call the store, or we sit down with the manager, it ends up being 2 or 3 people. And when you put that in context of the 1,000 people who spray tan in a month, you know, it gets so exaggerated, you know.
Well, let me do this because we've got another question that came in, and this is kind of on human resources. So for both you retailers to consider, here's a person that's asked, how do you find your employees? Any specific, it's a second here, hold on here. Any specific website that you post classified ads to? This person goes on to say, I'm having much trouble finding good management and in the process of expanding into my second location. Well, first of all, congratulations that things are going well and you're going into your second location. I'll say, and then I'll turn it over to you guys, but this is a thing that we get involved with all the time. Recruiting is like every week. And Craigslist has been a good source for us for tanning consultants and maybe up to assistant manager level for managers and for district managers and GMs. I use Career Builder quite a bit, and we've had success. But I think my own opinion is that wherever you post, a lot of it depends on the ad that you write, and really a big part of it is wading through the screening process of wading through the resumes you get, because I swear that of the resumes I look at, I think there's only, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, I think there's only 5% of what I look at that I really give a second look to, because so many of them are just so incredibly awful in what they're sending me as in response to the specific ad. But anyway, Craigslist for the lower levels and Career Builder I do use a few others, but let me turn it back to you guys. Michael and Dan, what do you do as far as posting for help wanted? Where do you go for new help?
We do a combination of things. We do a combination of Craigslist, in-store. We do obviously in-store posters, and and we're always recruiting too. We don't mind if we can steal somebody from our local Starbucks or the gym or wherever we.
Oh, absolutely.
Gives us pretty good customer service. We don't mind doing a little bit of headhunting in our market, but
sure.
The other thing is we post it. When we write ads on Craigslist, we pay better than any of the other tanning salons here in Seattle, and we're proud of that. And we post the fact that people can make a career and have a living wage with us. And we think that that's very important as well.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. That's great. So you guys, what you guys are doing is you're not trying to get good people on the cheap.
No, we want people that are going to be with us when we hit that 5,000 store mark.
Okay. Brian, where do you go for recruiting?
Basically the same thing as they just said. I mean, kind of all of the above. I mean, we'll post on Craigslist. I mean, we're fairly successful on Craigslist. We'll post in the store, Facebook, on the website, and the same with us. We're always recruiting and encouraging, especially our better employees, looking to see if they have friends, where your friends working, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's it's always amazing to me, guys, that I'll look at clients that spend a lot of money on tanning beds. I mean, that's very expensive. A lot of money on build out, and then a lot of money on a lease, having a great location, and all of the investment, and they take all of that investment and put it in the hands of a person who is willing to work for minimum wage. And you just got to ask, if that person's willing to work for minimum wage, what kind of sense of worth or self-worth or self-esteem do they have? Are they going to be the person that's going to sell someone a platinum uranium-235 session package every month that's going to cost them $140? I mean, I just don't see it. I don't understand why a lot of salons think they can do that. It would be like taking a tanning bed. My ex-wife and I owned a tanning bed back in the early 80s. I think it looked like a piece of driftwood with a couple bulbs in it. And it's like taking a bed like that and putting it in a location that's in the war zone. And why would you think anybody would come there, or they'd ever come again? And yet we know that that's not wrong, or that's wrong. And yet we hire people that are satisfied with minimum wage. I don't get it. Brian, why don't you talk about compensation and incentives? What do you do to get, what do you do as a compensation and incentives strategy?
Well, all of our employees and managers, they obviously get bonuses based on lotion sales. We do a sliding scale. I don't have it in front of me, but they get a higher percentage of their product sales in relation to what their per tanner average is, or lotion per tanner average is. So if their average is $1.75, they might be getting 5% of their lotion sales. But if their average is $3 or $4 per person, or whatever the level is, it's 20%. So we have a sliding scale where they can earn anywhere from they can earn 0 all the way up to 20% of their product sales. So that's on lotion. Memberships, same thing, but bonuses on all memberships. I mean, that's the number one thing we want them selling. As far as managers, we have, depending on how the strength of the manager and how important it is to us to keep them, we do even more aggressive things. We try to tie in things in their life that they'll want to stay with us. Like we'll switch their cell phone over to our corporate plan, so their cell phone's paid for. We've got 1 or 2. We're switched over their car payment. We're paying their car payment as a bonus that they've earned. So it integrates parts of their life into the business, and I don't want to say it makes it a little harder to leave, like we're trapping them, but
well, you're trapping them. But Brian, having worked with you and Heather and your management, they're being trapped in comfort because they're not working for SOBs. And I tell you, I don't care what you offer as a plan. If who you're working for is a jerk. I think I've told this audience on past webinars that there was a client out east, and I won't even say what state he was in, but he had 4 salons, and the average tenure of his employee was 102 days. In other words, a little over 3 months. So, I mean, you can't possibly run a business that deals with selling indulgence on trust to customers if you see a new face every 90 days, and that's just crazy. Let me go back to Dan and Mike. what do you do as far as incentives for your employees?
We do something similar, but I would say we most of our pay, we have a base and then an incentive basically on obviously things like PTA and how much lotion they sell, and most of our pay is we like to have a nice base, but then everything is really incentive from there on out. Like we really want to. The idea is to basically to pay people for the performance, and to create a system that basically weeds out your lazy people and rewards your hard workers. So we do a combination of that, plus we pay performance bonuses to all of our managers, and then we also have an end of the year bonus that we pay depending on the performance of the store as well. So, and we're always doing little contests. We do a lot of little goofy sales contests, and things like basically we have like a weekly sales meeting where basically maybe we'll hand out $50 to $100 or whatever, just if someone did a good job with lotion,
sure,
or did recognizing someone, a good manager, that maybe they sold the most EFTs that week or whatever. We're always doing something like that to kind of keep it fresh.
Those, Michael, we call them in the HR business, we call them lightning strike rewards. And a lot of times those are very, very effective because, you get a reward that you weren't, you earned it, but you weren't expecting to be recognized for it. And, boy, that's, especially in front of your peers, makes a huge difference. Now, I want to say to people on the call here, we're already 3 minutes over our hour, but if you have questions here, last-minute questions that you'd like to ask, please put them in the chat box, and I'll look at them. And while we're waiting, let me ask you guys, Dan and Mike, one time I'm sure the company had one location. What was the criteria that you used when you said, geez, I think we want to open our second one? Was it just strictly the profit success of the one that you had, or what brought you to the decision?
I think it had to do with the opportunity was there, and we had a competitor that they were wanting to do, and we knew that it was a great location, and it just made sense to take over that spot, and we saw that as a growth opportunity, and the one location was doing well, and the opportunity presented itself, and it made sense. And the thing is, if there's an opportunity and you don't take it, sometimes somebody else will, and that's part of the reason why we've grown, and also we've been pretty strategic though. We've picked locations and areas where there is no competition, and we've also bought out some of our competitors as well to get to where we are.
I would add to that. The fact is that in our market where it is so competitive, we really don't have much of a choice. It's really either grow or go away. That's our market is so saturated. Whereas if you're in a market where maybe you're in a little small town somewhere and you don't have any competition, and you're that one tanning salon in that town full of 20 or 30,000 people, maybe it just makes sense to just have one.
Well, you could also, by the way, in defining competition. Competition isn't just always other tanning salons. It's any place where somebody's going to spend discretionary income on an indulgence, whether it's massage or, getting nails done or whatever. I think sometimes people with a single salon in a small market that get they romance themselves to sleep a little bit, and they're not as aggressive as they should be because there's only so many dollars you can spend on indulgence. So I wanted to ask one other question here of both of you. What did I do? Oh, on competition. Brian, do you have somebody in your company, one of your people that monitors competition as far as their Facebook? And I'm talking about Orlando because you more or less own that market, and Tampa, you're pretty strong there too. But in markets where you're expanding to, where you don't, you're not the big dog in town, do you have somebody in the company that monitors the competition as far as pricing and deals and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we monitor what they're doing, and actually, if on your Facebook page now, you can actually monitor I think you can monitor up to 5 or 10 of your competitors right on your administrative dashboard.
Gotcha.
To see what they're doing. You can watch their number of likes, if they're going up or down.
Wow.
It takes you right to their page. So that's an easy way to monitor what they're doing on there. We don't really adjust a whole lot to what our competitors are doing. We feel we focus on what we do well, and then people are going to come to us. You know, there's nothing we can do about what the guy's going to do down the street. If he's going to give this stuff away, he's going to give this stuff away. You know, we don't really let it affect our overall game plan. You know, our game plan's laid out, like I said, a year in advance. We'll make some adjustments, but we try not to adjust too much to what they're doing. We certainly watch what they're doing, but I wouldn't say it affects what we do. And, you know, they drop their price. We don't drop our price the next day. You know, we kind of evaluate what effect it's had, if any, and go from there.
Well, from a competition standpoint, your approach, you can probably afford to do it a little bit differently than Dan and Michael. You've got two major chains in your market that this is a David and Goliath situation for you.
Let me speak to this one, John. We're David, and we're fighting against a giant here, and we have to be very price conscious, and we have chosen to be 5 to 10% cheaper than our competition, because that, I mean, in reality, you know, most people, if they can get a product for 5 to 10% less, will choose that price point. We're in a you know, economic hard time right now, and people are very cost conscious, and so yeah, we keep track of their pricing, and we undercut their pricing very consciously.
Well, not only that, but we're conscious. You know, the other thing is that we're also very conscious about, you know, we're a real different animal than our competitors too, though. You know, we really make a choice to differentiate, you know, from our competitors. All our competitors are basically the big box, East Coast, Midwest, you know, giant gym chains where they've got, you know, 30 beds in a store. And we have made a very conscious decision to be what I like to call West Coast small box, which is basically your 12-bed footprint with, you know, a good lease, maybe not the perfect prime location, but pretty good. And you know, and it's very spa-like. We concentrate very on high customer service. We build the relationships with our clients. You know, we are basically the anti-big tanning salon, if I could say that. And that's one thing as a competitor to those big guys that we do very well. And it's a place that they can't follow us. So.
Well, let me, gentlemen, let me digress for a second, because we've had some questions come in here, and whoever wants to take it first, go right ahead. But Merva, thank you for your question. Merva asked, she said, what is good base pay rate average, hourly pay, for tan consultants and management? Because I think it's Merva that's going to open a second location, I believe, Merva, and she's wondering, what's a good base pay rate for my consultants and for a manager? And I suppose it depends a lot on the market, but Brian, you know, Orlando, well, and for both of you guys, I mean, you're in larger socioeconomic markets. I mean, I don't know that. Merva might be in Boston, where it's pretty expensive. But what do you guys, Mike and Dan, what do you pay a manager, if you don't mind sharing that with us, as far as base pay rate? I assume is it salaried or hourly?
Our managers are salaried, and then John had actually helped us with this structure. I don't know, you helped us about a year ago, right, John? Maybe a year and a half, when we had maybe 13, 14 stores. We've grown pretty quick in the past year and a half. But I think we have about 12 or 13
because of my help, you've grown that much?
Yeah, I credit all to you. No, you certainly did. You certainly did help, because building the infrastructure is certainly a challenge, jumping from 12 stores to 40 in a relatively short time. But we have a tiered structure. It's based on their base pay. A manager's base pay starts at $525 and can go all the way up to $750, and it's based on tenure. It's based on store performance, based on like a gross revenue. I mean, a store doing $400,000 is a manager going to make less than a store doing $700,000. So basically 10-year store performance.
And Brian, didn't we set up a tiering program that your stores, a tier 1 store was one volume, and if you were working a tier 1 store, you got X, and if a promotion, an actual promotion would be, if we moved you over to a tier 2 store, you made more money, and that would
right.
also
It's almost like a grid. It's almost like it's like a grid. So I think we have 3 or 4 tiers, starting at 525 all the way up to 750 as a base, and then as you can either be promoted to a busier store, you can make more money by tenure. You work for a year, you move up to the if it goes 525, 575, 625, whatever it is. So there's a couple different ways they can move up and pay in their base pay scale, between either like I said, from tenure or move into higher volume stores.
And what's great, Brian, about what you've done is you've got this defined. Your managers know this. I mean, this isn't some kind of a mystery. I mean, they if they aspire to get promoted, they know what they've got to do, and they know that there's going to be a different store they'll have to move to, and they know what they're going to be paid. And this, by the way, is what the big chains. I'm not just talking about tanning salons. I mean, if you work at a $25 million Target store, you're going to get paid, if you're the general manager of that store, you're going to get paid X. If you get promoted over to a $45 million Target store, you know you're going to get paid Y. It's going to make a big difference. So that's what I like really about what you've done is they know there's definition of that career path.
Yeah, it's worked out well, and it kind of fosters a little competition too, because they all want to move to a busier store now. They've done their because it's instant money for them. So they know if we lose a manager or we promote a manager at a busy store to a busier store, or she moves up to a GM, and that slot's going to open. I mean, they're all trying to outperform themselves because they know we're going to pick somebody based on performance to move over to that store. We're 14 minutes past the hour here, and I know sometimes people, they want to get off the webinar because they've got other things to do. So I apologize for running late, but there's a number of questions that are coming in here, so I want to be respectful of those questions. One of the questions, and this I'm going to throw back to Dan and Mike, because Brian, in your area, I don't think you have an issue in Florida. I don't think you're currently, or maybe I'm wrong here. Do you have an under 18 tanning ban, Brian? No, we don't.
Okay.
No.
Now, Dan and Mike, I mean, this is quite appropriate that someone asked this question because they said, are any of these gentlemen, I don't know that they called you guys gentlemen, but anyway, they wanted to know, are you in states where there's an issue for under 18 tanning? And Dan, do you want to jump on that?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, we've been going for the last month. We formed a state tanning association, and we've been going down to our capital to lobby against this legislation that's at the state capitol. There's a bill working its way through the legislature in Washington State to ban tanning under 18. And it's I'd say the main thing is that if you don't have regulation in your state, it's coming, and you need to organize, and you need to get involved. Get involved. Make some contacts with your representatives and organize. Get a website, start having meetings, and figure out what you want, and find out who your friends and your enemies are down in your capital, because it's coming, and you need to organize if you want to fight it. And you probably will not get any help from any national organization. So don't rely on the national organizations for help.
Or they might do you dirty.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might actually against you. So just be warned. We'll see how ours turns out, and we're still currently working on it. I think they're voting on it today, actually.
Well, let me do this, gentlemen. We're at 16 minutes past here, and it's people get a little antsy, so I want to put in a little plug here for what we do. And the question is, should you use a consultant to reset your salon company's direction? And again, I want to tell everybody that our company only serves the retail tanning industry. That's all we do. We've had enormous successes with hundreds of salons. I think now we've worked with more than 700 salons. But what you hear in this webinar, you'll not hear in a trade show. And with exception was this last winter at the Winter Fair, I shared some of this stuff. But the way we look at it, that no two salon companies are alike, and everybody needs hands-on attention. So nothing we do is packaged. We don't sell a commodity. It's all very personalized. And if you need help to sign up for a free consultation, please go to johnrfar.com. Now, the other thing I want to also mention before we get off the phone here, too, if I can get the I always have these issues with my PowerPoint. Anyway, just put a plug in for Sun is Life, their training modules. What they're doing at IST Magazine with Sun is Life is really, really very cool, very comprehensive. Not to take a shot at anybody else's certification out there, but I just think what they're doing is really, really a great program. And I've had several of my clients now jump in and use the certification from Sun is Life, and there's their Facebook. Of course, they're always looking for some likes, and you know, we look for some of those ourselves too. And if you want the package, and this is something I've thrown out before, just go to my website. You can get interview questions, mystery shopping forum, new employee training checklist, a lot of goodies there. We're going to be adding significantly to that in another month or two. So, and now when we shut down the webinar, there is a exit poll, and please, I really would appreciate if you guys would give us some, the attendees would give us some feedback on whether or not we've helped you today or not, or whatever, or you know, you just think we're a bunch of idiots or whatever. But just tell us what you think, and if you say something negative, we'll slash our wrist. But other than that, we'd like to hear whatever it is that you feel that you got from this, if you got something from it. And the next webinar is coming up on the 27th of March, and it's strictly talking about tanning consultants. We're going to have 2 or 3 tanning consultants on that are really, really good and in their role, and it would be wide open for managers, consultants, and owners. So we want to pitch you on that. But today I want to thank Brian. I want to thank you very much for being on here. You bring a great perspective, a guy that started from doing debit and credit as a CPA to a powerhouse in, well, let's see, I guess you just about own 2 markets, and a couple other markets you're also very significant in. And you know, someday we may see South Beach coming out to challenge these other guys on the phone. No,
that's a little. We're in a couple states, but that's a little ways away.
I was being facetious, of course. And Michael and Dan, what you guys have done is just fantastic. I mean, anybody that goes from 1 to 14 salons and keeps making money has tremendous respect from me. I mean, we have single salon clients as well that have big volume and have made very good money in their markets, and obviously they have my respect. So Dan and Mike, thank you very much for being on today, and you guys, I may just ask you to be on again in the future here. And I think Tony has, from Sun is Life, had to depart the call. So again, though, there will be an exit poll after we shut down the webinar, and please, if you give us your critical comments one way or the other. And David, are you there for us to shut this thing down?
I am here, and I'm ready to shut it down, and the survey will pop up immediately following.
All right, people, thank you very much, and we'll look for you on March the 27th. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day, and everybody has some fantastic business building here this spring.
Thanks for having us, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, John.